So we have a fantastic panel today. They came a long way and from really all over the world, and it's following what's been going on. The momentum from this morning is just fantastic. The input and the engagement here. I don't know about you, but I've been totally excited and inspired. Our first speaker, we're looking at the Korean unification as a Korean-led initiative, so we're going to lead the roundtable discussion with a Korean scholar who will lay out a framework for us, and he gets a couple more minutes. You have to forgive him, but everybody else, we're going to start throwing pencils at them if they go over the 3 minutes. But our first speaker today is Dr. Kang-taek Lim, and he's Senior Research Fellow with the Korea Institute for National Unification. Please welcome Dr. Lim.
안녕하십니까. 통일연구원에서 온 임강택입니다. 제가 북한 경제를 한 25년 정도 연구를 해왔고요. 최근에 여러 가지 상황 변화에 따라서 그동안 경험하지 못했던 새로운 기회를 맞이하고 있는 그런 중요한 시점에서 여러분들하고 우리의 미래를 같이 나눌 수 있는 기회를 갖게 돼서 고맙게 생각합니다. 잘 아시는 것처럼 오늘 2차 북미 정상회담이 예정되어 있습니다. 본격적인 회담은 내일 진행이 되겠지만은 오늘 첫 만남을 통해서 양국이 무엇을 협의하고 결정하게 될 것인지 전반적인 분위기가 형성이 될 것 같습니다. 1차 정상회담 이후에 8개월 동안 만남인데요. 8개월 동안 우리는 제2차 정상회담을 아마 간절하게 바랬는지 모르겠습니다. 왜냐하면은 1차 정상회담 이후에 구체적인 협의가 진척을 보지 못했습니다. 그래서 많은 전문가들이 뭔가 새로운 전기가 필요하고 그 새로운 전기는 양 정상이 다시 한번 만나서 중요한 것에 대한 합의를 하는 것으로 출발해야 될 것이다 라는 이야기였고, 그 2차 정상회담이 작년 말부터 계속 논의를 됐었는데 성사되지 못하다가 드디어 이번에 성사가 된 것을 지켜보면서 한낱 실마리로 출발할 수는 있겠지만은 남북 간에 그리고 북미 간에 그리고 한반도의 새로운 발전과 협력의 기회가 만들어질 수도 있겠다라는 그런 희망을 풀어옵니다. 우리 문재인 대통령께서도 어제 그제 수석 보좌관 회의에서 이번 정상회담이 가지고 있는 여러 가지 역사적 의미를 강조하시면서 이 회담 성공이 한반도의 평화와 그리고 경제적인 통일을 앞당기는데 중요한 계기가 될 수 있을 것이다라고 기대와 희망을 표시한 바 있습니다. 그러시면서 앞으로 펼쳐질 협력의 기회에 한반도가 그리고 우리 한국이 좀 더 주도적으로 역할을 할 수 있도록 지금부터 잘 준비할 필요가 있다라는 말씀도 덧붙였는데요. 한국 정부가 북한하고의 경제협력을 사실은 벌써 수년 동안 준비를 해왔고, 그 내용이 소위 한반도 한반도 신경제구상이라는 이름으로 발표가 되고 있는데요. 한반도 신경제구상은 북한이 비핵화에 동의하고 거기에 구체적인 성과를 만들게 되면, 그래서 북한의 비핵화가 사실상 실천이 되면은 남한이 북한의 경제 발전과 그리고 체제 안전을 확보하고 강화하는 작업을 적극적으로 지원할 것이다. 그러니까 마음 놓고 비핵화의 길로 가라라는 그 메시지를 전달하고자 준비됐다고 볼 수가 있습니다. 한반도 신경제 구상은 남북 간의 협력을 통해서 우리 경제에 도움이 되는 것뿐만 아니라 북한 경제에도 실질적으로 도움이 되는 그런 사업을 같이 나누자는 것이고, 나아가서 남북 간의 협력이 동북아 지역과 주변국 그리고 국제 경제와의 협력으로 확대한다라는 그런 구상을 가지고 있습니다. 여기 첫 번째 그림이 한반도 신경제 구상에서 이야기하는 3대 경제 협력 벨트 중에 하나인 서해안 환황해 경제 협력 벨트의 그림입니다. 이 그림을 보시면은 우선적으로 서해안 지역의 남북한이 산업과 교통망을 중심으로 해서 협력을 해나가고, 그 협력을 공고히 해나가는 것을 병행해서 중국의 해안 지역과 그리고 일본의 남부 지역까지도 포괄하는 그런 동북아의 한 부분에 대한 협력까지도 확대해 나간다는 그런 그림을 가지고 있습니다. 두 번째 그림은 그 동해안 협력 벨트인데요. 동해안 협력 벨트는 여기서 그림에서 나타나는 것처럼 중국, 러시아, 일본까지 포괄하는 다국적인 협력을 내포하고 있는 지역입니다. 사실 그동안에 동북아 지역에 있는 많은 국가들이 동북아 차원에서의 경제 협력을 확대시키기 위해서 노력을 해왔습니다. 아마 역사적으로 보면 거의 한 20년이 훨씬 넘었다고 볼 수가 있는데요. 근데 그동안 실질적인 성과가 이루지 못했습니다. 가장 큰 이유는 북한이 개방되지 않았기 때문이라고 볼 수가 있고, 북한의 폐쇄적인 정책 때문에 이 지역의 경제협력이 활성화되지 못했습니다. 그런데 만약에 남북 간의 협력을 통해서 이 동해안 지역이 열리면은 자연스럽게 동북아 지역의 국가들이 참여하는 다국적 경제협력이 확대될 수 있다라는 것에 사실은 이 동해안 협력 벨트의 비전과 목표를 두고 있다고 할 수가 있습니다. 세 번째가 적경적 협력 벨트인데, 적경적 협력 벨트는 잘 아시는 것처럼 지금 비무장지대로 해서 거의 개발이 안 돼 있는 지역입니다. 이 지역은 지난 1년 동안 남북 간의 관계가 개선되면서 상대적으로 가장 많은 협력의 성과를 거뒀다고 볼 수도 있습니다. JSA라고 공동 경비구역, 판문점이 있는 그 지역이 사실상 남북한이 공동으로 활용할 수 있는 공간으로 오픈됐습니다. 그리고 나아가서 철원 지역에 유해 공동 발굴 사업을 진행하면서 그 지역을 공동으로 관리하는, 그리고 그 지역에 있는 문화 부분까지도 협력의 영역으로 확대해 나가는 그런 노력이 진행되고 있어서 사실상 한반도의 평화지대화라는 남북 간의 협력이 이 접경 지역을 중심으로 해서 활발하게 진행되고 있다라고 할 수가 있습니다. 두 번째 한반도 신경제 구상의 핵심 요지가 하나의 시장인데, 하나의 시장은 남북 간의 협력을 시장을 통해서 하겠다라는 겁니다. 시장을 통해서 하겠다라는 것은 남북 간의 경제를 하나의 시장으로 인식하고 하나의 시장 공동체를 지향한다는 것이고, 그 이야기는 남북 간의 경제의 통일은 시장을 통해서 하겠다는 겁니다. 문재인 정부의 경제정책, 그 대북정책의 1차적인 목표는 경제적인 통일입니다. 그리고 경제적인 통일을 위해서 시장을 최대한 활용하겠다는 것이 그 구상입니다. 죄송합니다. 제가 깜빡 잊어버렸습니다. 그 다음으로 우리가 살펴볼 수 있는 게 이런 경제 통합 그리고 경제 통일의 환경을 우리가 어떻게 평가할 수 있느냐는 건데요. 아마 여러분들이 조금이라도 관심을 가지시면은 알 수 있는 게, 최근 북한이 시장화를 중심으로 해서 빠르게 변하고 있고, 정책적으로도 경제건설 총력 집중 노선, 그리고 사회주의 기업 책임관리제라는 이름으로 기업들한테 전격적인 자율권을 보장하는 형태로 빠르게 경제 시스템을 변화하고 있습니다. 주변국가 협력할 수 있는 준비를 아주 빠르게 하고 있다는 것이죠. 그리고 27개에 달하는 전역에 걸쳐서 개방구를 설치하고 앞으로 그걸 주변국의 협력을 통해서 개발해 나가겠다는 그런 구상을 가지고 있습니다. 그런 부분들이 앞으로 남북간의 협력을 활성화시키고 발전시키는데 아주 좋은 토대가 될 수 있을 거라고 생각을 하고요. 두 번째 저희들이 이제 관심을 갖는 부분이 중국하고 러시아의 경제 정책 역시 주변국가의 협력을 강조하고 있습니다. 아시는 것처럼 중국의 1대1로가 강조하고 있는 것은 중국의 물류와 다양한 분야의 협력을 주변국을 통해서 세계를 관통하겠다는 것입니다. 남북이 추구하고 있는 남북 협력을 통한 동북아시아의 협력과 맥을 같이 한다는 점에서 한반도 신경제 구상이 지향한 점하고 맞아 떨어지고 있고요. 두 번째, 러시아의 신동방 정책 역시 주변국가의 협력을 전제로 해서 진행되고 있습니다. 따라서 문재인 정부가 추구하고 있는 한반도 신경제 구상은 주변국가의 협력의 환경이 아주 잘 마련되어 있고, 그리고 북한 역시 차근차근 준비를 하고 있어서 이번에 북미 정상회담을 통해서 여건이 잘 주어진다면은 새로운 협력의 기회가 마련될 것이고, 그러한 협력의 기회가 경제 통일 그리고 동북아 차원에서 경제 협력으로 확대될 가능성이 아주 높아지고 있다라고 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 저한테 주어진 시간이 꽤 많은 줄 알았었는데 이렇게 이야기하다 보니까 시간이 다 됐습니다. 이상으로 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lim. I really glad Ambassador Everard joined us again for this session. He gave a comment at the in his presentation in the last session. He was the former ambassador to DPRK for the UK. That this is going to be damned expensive, something like that. It's going to cost a fortune and not be a bonanza. But all of these areas on the map and the initiatives and the arrows that Dr. Lim pointed out are areas of potential income generating, revenue generating projects that would look at those, the work and as an investment in North Korea and in the Korea regional initiatives that would generate revenue. And so not just the cost and not just development, but I think that's our perspective this morning, is how we can maximize that, bring the economic perspective in and the business perspective. Our next speaker is the president of the True World Group, which is a seafood conglomerate that includes a lot of countries impacted by North Korea's attitude, and so that would be the United States, Korea, Japan, China, Shanghai. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Robert Blue.
Thank you, John. So I'm Robert Blue. I'm the president of True World Group. We're about $500 million in sales. We own seafood assets and we sell East Asian culture in the West. So we have a full supply chain that comes through Japan, Korea, South Korea, and China. And it's very important to us what happens in Asia. We have actually 2017, during the period when North Korea was doing their missile testing, we saw what an incredibly disruptive, problematic situation that could be. We have businesses with employees that we really care about and customers. You know, the long-term life of your business is so important to your customers, and they are like your partners. So we had these incredible reports coming from Japan and from Hawaii, which both had missile incidents. One person from my Hawaiian team was telling me there were people out in the street repenting, like on their knees crying, because they believed a live, nuclear missile was coming into Hawaii. Two of our customers were in this hotel for a meeting. They ran down into the basement because, like, what came over the public address system is there's a live missile incoming, seek shelter. And in fact, one family, someone told me, And this is a good idea. They lifted the manhole cover off and put their children down the drain into the sewer, which is a smart thing if it was a real nuke. but I gotta say, talking to those people, and also in Japan. So in Japan, your phone and your TV, even if they were turned off, came on and said, this is a civil defense warning. There's an incoming missile, seek shelter. This causes a bunch of disturbance in the business, chills the whole area. Entrepreneurs worry about, will this take out my business? There's an enormous opportunity, I think, in North Korea. My experience with the Korean people is they're very entrepreneurial. If there's an environment where entrepreneurs believe they can earn and keep the effort of their hard work, there will be very active small business growth there. Am I out of time?
Our time is up. How's he doing?
How much time do I have left?
No. 3 minutes each one. He's already been. Give him 1 minute, one more minute.
Okay. So anyway, it is, I think there's a big opportunity there. Obviously, it's a very, like the infrastructure of North Korea, from what you can see from the DMZ or if the satellite pictures at night, it's a terribly undeveloped country. But obviously, there's a lot of infrastructure spending and all that, which will grow. Obviously, someone has to fund it, and there has to be some kind of return on that. But I do believe in the Korean people that, as I said, they're very entrepreneurial. If the structure's in place that small business people can succeed, I believe when entrepreneurs meet opportunity, a lot of good development happens.
Thank you, Robert. Very clear. Nuclear explosions are not good for business. I understand that. Yeah. Yeah. So, no, I appreciate that perspective on the ground from the business perspective. Next, we have Dr. Daning Wang. She's the associate researcher at the Institute of Future Cities at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. We were just together in Mongolia a few months ago, and we have an international perspectives here. Her perspective from the China perspective is the whole world. It is what impressed us over there. They no limit on the China perspective. Please welcome Dr. Wang.
Thank you, John. Okay, my presentation, I only got 3 minutes, and this is part from my long paper, How Could the Belt Road Initiative Contribute to the Regional Economic Development of Northeast Asia. Yeqing promised me the paper could be available to everybody in the audience. So I want to make 3 points only out of this huge description. First point I want to make is the unification of North and South actually is a gradual process, which has already happened. I'm lucky enough to be part of the UB Dialogue back in 2015. Back then, about 4 years ago, more than 4 years ago, people was really walking in the darkness. People argue, debate, and people talk about things. And then 2017, I went to Manila with Global Peace Foundation. And the things already smoothed out. People started to talk about this issue, like unification. Last year, we went to Mongolia again. So that was the year. 2018 was the year we started to see some subtle changes. When I talk about subtle, means the changed rhetoric from a military issue, from a security issue to the economic issue, because back in 2018, last year, people really talk about opportunity or economic opportunity that can happen in this area. So my paper actually talk about the Belt Road Initiative within this big context, which has happened already for 4 years. So the Belt Road Initiative, I won't get into detail of this huge mega project initiated by China, but if you really look at it, it's a development route towards the West. So we're talking about Northeast Asia basically got left out from the beginning when 2013, President Xi Jinping first proposed this idea. So everything was going towards the west part of China, from Xi'an, from Shenzhen, Hong Kong, where I'm based. But later, Northeast Asia something started to happen. For example, ROK and Japan, they joined the Silk Road Foundation. They also joined the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. But Mongolia's status for SCO is still pending. And Russia also organized its, we can say, Oriental or Eastern Asian Forum last year. So things are happening economic-wise in this area, and we can see it's progressing very smoothly. So for the potential, for the future, lots of things happened last year. We need to pay attention. For example, I have a long list here. Mr. Wang Yi the Foreign Affairs Minister Wang Yi of China visited Mongolia last year in August 2018, and he signed $300 million assistance agreement with Mongolia. And Mongolia also built up the Belt Road access at its airport. And then Xi Jinping went to Russia to be part of this Fourth Eastern Economic Forum and talk to the regional leaders. And other than that, something else happened is 10+3, which is ASEAN plus Korea, China, and Japan. It's also happening, and people started to organize more cultural economic activities together. Do I still have minutes?
Timer's in the second row.
Oh, time's up, time's up. Okay, no, let me conclude. Let me conclude. Yes, I also want to mention one thing which is very important. The South Korean former Prime Minister, Lee Han-chang, and he proposed something in May 2018. He called it the Two-Centennial Project, which is one 100-year celebration this year, which is the celebration of the March 1st movement. And the other one is the 2045. Is another 100-year celebration in this peninsula, which is echoing China's 2020 and the 2049 celebration. So that's my point.
Thank you, Dr. Wang.
Thank you.
And she mentioned she did provide a paper, and most of the speakers did, and they're quite fascinating and in-depth. And we can make those available to you if you just if you don't get their business card after the session. Check with me or any of the people in the Global Peace Foundation. We'll really do our best. Also, their bios are remarkable, and we don't have time to do that also. So check that online also, but do connect with them later. We'll try to get through this so that you can have a chance to meet them. Next speaker is the specially appointed fellow in international development from the Japan Center for Economic Research, and he happens to be not so Japanese, but please welcome Dr. Chanwoo Lee from the Japan Center for Economic Research.
안녕하십니까. 저는 일본에서 온 이찬우라고 합니다. 저는 한국 사람입니다만 지금 국적은 일본입니다. 그래서 일본을 대표하는 건 아니지만은 일본의 입장에서 생각하는 것을 좀 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 오전부터 이어지는 이제 정치 부분이나 역사 부분에 있어서는 일본은 가해자라고 할 수 있기 때문에 상당히 입장이 좀 어려운 입장에서 있습니다만 이제 5세션에 이제 경제 얘기를 하다 보면 좀 분위기가 바뀌어서 일본이 협력할 수 있는 파트너가 될 수도 있는 이제 그런 상황이기 때문에 저로서도 조금 일본을 경제 부분에서는 약간 변호할 수 있는 부분이 있지 않는가 하는 생각도 합니다. 저는 이 한반도에서의 지금 벌어지고 있는 것은 신한반도 체제 아니면 신한반도 시대라고 얘기할 수 있을 정도로 특히 3.1운동 100주년을 기념하는 자리이기도 합니다만 평화가 오지 않았던 100년간 많은 기다림이 있었습니다만 이제야 비로소 새로운 시대가 이 한반도에 오고 있지 않는가. 이런 속에서 주변국 특히 일본은 과거에 가해자였던 나라가 어떠한 협력을 할 수 있는가에 대해서 간단히 요점만을 좀 정리해서 말씀드리고자 합니다. 저는 그것을 키워드로 평화 경제라고 생각합니다. 일본이 기여할 수 있는 것은 평화에 공헌하는 것이라고 생각합니다. 일본의 헌법의 이름이 평화 헌법이라고 되어 있습니다. 그래서 군비를 가지지 않고 외국을 이제 더 이상 침략하지 않는 그런 평화 헌법을 일본은 갖고 있습니다만 평화 헌법이 생긴 지 지금 70년간 한 번도 개정된 적이 없는 세계에서 유일한 헌법이죠. 그런데 이제 그것을 개정하려고 일본 정부가 여러 가지 아베 정부가 노력을 하고 있습니다만 일본 시민들이 막고 있는 이제 그런 상황입니다. 네, 그런 일본의 입장에서 한반도가 새로운 경제 시대가 된다면 어떤 분야에서 주로 협력할 수 있는가? 저는 크게 세 가지 부분이라고 생각합니다. 일본과 한반도가 서로 마주보고 있는 것을 이제 동해라고 하죠. 일본에서는 이제 일본해라고 말해서 서로 이름을 가지고도 싸우고 있습니다만, 아마 저는 머릿속으로는 이 동해가 진정한 평화 경제를 이루는 평화의 해, 평화해라는 평화의 바다가 돼야 한다라고 생각합니다. 그런 면에서는 일본에게 도움도 되고 한반도, 중국, 나아가선 러시아에게도 몽골에게도 도움이 되는 그러한 경제 분야에서의 협력이 이루어진다면 서로가 윈윈 할 수 있는 부분이 있지 않는가라고 생각합니다. 그것의 첫째는 물론 교통과 물류 분야입니다. 그래서 한반도가 더 이상 나눠져 있지 않은 상태가 된다면 부산에서 신의주로 가고 또 신의주에서 이번에 김정은 위원장이 베트남까지 기차로 갔듯이 부산에서 기차로 유럽까지도 그리고 중국, 동남아시아까지 갈 수 있지 않는가 생각합니다. 그래서 일본을 더 이상 섬나라로 만들지 않는 대륙과의 연결을 위한 교통 물류 분야는 일본도 적극적인 협력을 할 수 있는 분야다. 그리고 두 번째는 에너지 분야입니다. 한국과 일본은 에너지가 없기로 유명한 나라이죠. 그러나 북한과 중국, 러시아는 에너지가 많기로 유명한 나라입니다. 에너지가 많기로 유명한 나라들과 없기로 유명한 나라들이 붙어 있는데 서로 교류한다면 바로 상생할 수 있는 분야가 천연가스라든가 석유, 석탄 그리고 기타 자연 에너지 부분들에서 많은 기술 협력들을 일본은 할 수 있다고 생각됩니다. 그리고 마지막으로 수산 분야를 저는 특히 꼽고 싶습니다만 동해 바다가 평화의 바다가 되기 위해서는 동해안을 잘 지키고 안보상으로 지키는 것뿐만 아니라 평화 경제로 잘 일구어서 북한 앞바다에 있는 어장도 남쪽이 쓸 수 있고 서로가 같이 공유하는 그래서 동해가 서로의 많은 어선들이 가서 같이 교류하면서 경제 사업을 같이 할 수 있는 그런 분야 그런 것에 대해서 일본의 자금과 기술과 그리고 경험 등을 경제 협력을 통해서 북에도 남에도 그리고 통일된 한국에도 협력할 수 있는 그런 시간이 곧 오기를 바라면서 말씀을 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Next speaker has two doctorates working here in Korea. Dr. Lakhvinder Singh is the chairman of the India-Korea Business and Policy Forum, also director of the Peace Program at the Asia Institute. Please welcome Dr. Singh.
Thank you very much for having me. To the question why Korea should be united. In the morning it was told it's the right thing to do. I will say it's the best thing to do. Why? Economic balance of power in the region is changing. The rise of China's economic power is giving tough time to Korean economy. If Korea really want to stand as economic power, it has no option left than the unification of Korea. In the morning, Professor Lekana was talking about the cost of the unification, but he has no idea how much cost South Korea has to pay if it remain undivided. Remain divided. So we argue that the unification of Korea is the only option left for Korea. Rise of China not only as economic power but as a military power. It's changing the whole scenario in the region. It's a matter of time before a new economic order and a military power order emerge in Korea. If Korea wants to keep its place in the region, United Korea can have a due and fair position in Korea, in the region. Without unification of Korea, Korea will be pushed to corner and will not have a due place in the region. So we strongly argue, forget about the cost. Let's have unification as soon as possible. There's not much time left. Our data shows that by the 2025, Korea, USA, China will be the strongest military force in the world, in the region. It will have serious economic implication for the region. If Korea wants to have a very due and fair place among Japan, Korea, and China, it has to be united. Divided, Korea will not be in a position to negotiate a better position for itself. But having said that, there's no reason for Korea to rush to economic development very quickly. The mistake made in the progress of South Korea must not be repeated in the unification of Korea. So I will highlight 4 points which must be kept in mind. Number one is the damage done to environment. When Korea was developing, a lot of damage was done to environment. But when unification comes, we must pay proper attention to climate change and environment. Now, a lot of dust is coming from China. Just imagine a lot of factories set up in North Korea, how much dust will come to Korea. So we should pay proper attention to the climate change and environment issues. But not many Korean scholars are talking about it. It's time we give due consideration to the climate issues after unification. How Korea should be developed as a united nation. Number two, the most important issue is the family. In the great rush to the unification, great rush to the development, family was damaged in Korea, South Korea. Today, not many Korean women want to have children. So damage done to family was very serious. Korea is having a very serious population crisis. So when we are developing united Korea, we have to make sure that damage is not done to institution of family. We must protect family. So development of Korea should come in a way where institution of family is protected very, very carefully. Number third, I would like to draw your attention to the inequality. Korea, even though Korea is very rich, but there's huge concentration of power, of wealth, power in few hands. That's dangerous. That's causing a lot of suicide. A lot of South Koreans are dying, killing themselves. This Korea is the highest suicide rate in the world, or third highest side. You have to be very careful. We must not commit that mistake in United Korea. So, concentration of wealth in United Korea must be properly protected. We have to make sure that there's equal distribution of wealth in United Korea. Another point I want to draw your attention is that corporations, rich corporations from China, from USA, will rush into the North Korea, United Korea, to make money. What happens then? That a lot of wealth is captured by these people, and people of the Korea is left for nothing. So we have to pay proper attention how to protect Korean people from these big corporations. So proper attention must be paid how to save North Korean people, especially North Korean people, from these big corporations who will rush to Korea to make quick money. This is a very important point. Last but not the least, is debt trap. As you know, to develop United Korea, we will need a lot of wealth. Especially Chinese money will pour into the North Korea. That's very true. But we have to see how we avoid the debt trap. Chinese money is easy money, but when it's used, it causes a lot of problems in the end. We must learn from Sri Lanka, from Pakistan, how to use Chinese money properly. This is a very serious question. We never pay any attention to that. Chinese will come immediately. As soon as Korea is united, Chinese will come with big money. But mostly, it's very difficult to pay. But happening in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, and other countries, must be properly learned. So these 5 points I want to draw your attention, but most of the scholars are not talking about it. We are talking about unification. What will happen after unification? Economically, we have to pay proper attention to the post-economic scenario, post-unification economic scenario. There's going to be a lot of mess, a lot of crisis. So those scholars who love Korea to be united must pay proper economic attention to these issues. They are very real issues. They can cause a lot of trouble if we not pay proper attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. The first time I heard the economic case for family, which is really, really important, and it's pretty much ignored everywhere, but I appreciate you bringing that up, along with many other very important and unique points you made here this morning. Thanks, or this afternoon. Thanks very much. Next speaker is another person who understands business, also as a scholar, and working now in the government sector as well. The Commissioner of from the Commission of the Supervision of Business Competition in Indonesia, please welcome Dr. Chandra Setaiwan.
Yes. Thank you, moderator.
See you again.
Historically, this both countries already cooperate together. Yeah. For example, in Kaesong industrial regions, it's a special economic zones with more than 100 South Korean companies employ around 52,000 North Korean workers. The challenges and obstacles of the both corporations will be the diametrical difference approach between these two countries for the economic developments will be one of the obstacles faced by the unified Korea. North and South Korea still face such obstacles, including ideology, capital, nuclear weapons, and internal political stability on the path toward genuine unifications. The outcome also depends particularly on US political moves. Nevertheless, amid uncertainties, there seems to be one certainty. The only way to avoid risk is to have the foresight to make proof of future plans. In the market structures, if we see in the both country, in the South Korea is a market-driven economy and fair competitions. On the other hand, North Korea remains a common economy where the state owns almost all means of productions and development priority are defined by the government. The opportunities, the good news, the relationships amongst the US, South Korea, and North Korea reveals an optimistic prospects for peace on the Korean peninsula. Therefore, the unifications of Korea might be result synergy between these two nations. The good environment for fair trade competitive market in South Korea already proven makes South Korea is currently ranked as the 7th largest export economy in the world, and it enjoys a positive trade balance of 93.7 billion US dollars. The strengths of North Korea. We know South Korea has almost no natural resources. The strengths factors in the North Korea. The North Korea may not be economically advanced, but it does have plenty of unexplored and untapped natural resources as gold, coal, and other minerals, estimated be worth trillions of dollars. Most estimated give a figure of 6 to 9 trillion US dollars. North Korea has also abundant pool of cheap labor, and its market eager to see wealth growth most benefit to South Korea. And basically, taking a country, the last slide. Yes. Basically, taking a country with an already well-established and productive free market economy and providing it with cheap labor and raw material is a recipe for long-term growth and success. Therefore, according to a report of Goldman Sachs, a united Korea economy could surpass that of Germany or Japan in size and influence. The report concludes that a unified Korea could overtake France, Germany, and possibly Japan in 30, 40 years in terms of GDP and US dollar term. Other countries like other countries like China that import from both countries will be taking benefits because the synergy of a unified Korea will export to China with more competitive prices because of the efficiency and synergy of Unified Korea. It is forecasted for the world, Unified Korea is likely to boost global growth by 1%. Therefore, a Unified Korea will contribute positively to the world welfare and definitely a more peaceful in Korean Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandra. Thank you for that very optimistic and wonderful, positive perspective and presentation. Next, I'd like to welcome a senior fellow from the Institute for China-America Studies who has really broken down the whole Indo-Pacific through examining bilateral relations and challenges. Please welcome Dr. Saurabh Gupta.
Good afternoon. In the short time that I'm allotted, I want to point out a practical measure of where the two Koreas can cooperate and set a very useful example for the rest of Asia. The idea which I'm talking about is actually not a new idea. It's more than 10 years old. I'm just trying to put a little flesh on the bones of that idea. This is about having a joint maritime zone in the West Sea for fisheries and for developing living and non-living resources. International maritime law has made significant advances in the last 20 years to be able to design a maritime zone utilizing best practices in international law. Now think about it, if South Korea and North Korea, this is to kind of soften the northern limit line, which is the sea adjunct of the military demarcation line, and it's obviously a line where there's a lot of tension. Suppose the two countries were to take their case to an international court. There is a procedure called conciliation where it is not an adversarial situation. Two countries bring an issue to the court in terms of designing what a maritime zone or a maritime boundary looks like. And Australia and East Timor just did it by consensus. Jointly, they went and the court designed what a maritime boundary could be and also what a joint development zone could look like. Now, the two Koreas can, if there's sufficient movement forward on the denuclearization track, and if inter-Korean relations are moving forward in a good way, the two Koreas can think of going to an international court and telling them to draw the best best practices boundary. And from that best practices boundary, then we can have let's not call it a boundary, frankly, let's call it a zone. And here's where it gets interesting. You know, countries are entitled to have maritime entitlements from their coast. It is a zone. A zone is a zone which can be shared. It's not a line or a boundary which divides two countries. So the two countries can go, have the court draw this maritime zone, and that zone could thereafter be a basis on which they do their fishing and their exploitation of resources. Also, an important criteria here is that there are some small South Korean islands which are very close to the North Korean border. But what maritime law says is we don't have to determine sovereignty over people. We have to just determine entitlements, maritime entitlements. So South Korea's core interest of having its citizens on those islands not become North Koreans at some point of time where the boundary is drawn does not arise. The point is those islanders very close to North Korean coastline can maintain their South Korean citizenship. At the same time, we can have a common zone in the West Sea, which the two countries share, and that could be a great example of how countries in Asia can cooperate. There is at this point of time, a full-fledged joint development zone for fishing and non-living resources in Asia, and South Korea and North Korea could be the first ones to help create that sort of zone and set a precedent for others in Asia. Thanks.
Thank you much, Dr. Gupta. There's so much here. This is quite a rich panel. I hope please do look into their bios and get in touch with all of these fascinating presenters. Our next presenter gives us an Africa perspective. Dr. Shukla Mukesh is the CEO of the Suma Group of Companies Uganda, one of the largest conglomerates in Uganda. Oh, he's not there. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'll give him our regards anyhow. He's here in the building. If you do see him, or not, I mean he's at the conference. So, next speaker then is a very different perspective, one that's very relevant, especially with our neighbors to the north here, from Nepal. The human rights advisor to the president of Nepal and also the chair of the Alliance for Social Dialogue. We met in the elevator yesterday, and I've had wonderful meetings throughout this conference. Please welcome Dr. Sushil Pyokurel.
Namaste. Well, after listening to the experts, learned people, as a human rights defender, as a person who works for human rights, what I see is talking about economic, integration or economics is a bit difficult for me. But what I have seen, why we need prosperity, how we achieve prosperity. We need prosperity to protect the rights of the people. We have to have prosperity for rule of law. So look at this, the reunification of Korea. We have seen that when these two countries, why it is possible? Because everybody wants that. And it is not the question of one generation or first generation or second generation. You can see that younger people are joining. I'm not saying that younger people are not, wanting this unification, but what I have seen, I have talked to many younger generation, they are for the unification of Korea. Why? We can see that, we are talking about different alternatives for our goal is reunification. Why we call it reunification? Because Korea was one 1,000 years back, for many thousand years Korea was one, then you are separated, but it was very much, for me, it is an artificial separation. It was the rivalry of superpower who separated the Korea. Now, the Korean people, if the Korean people wish to unite it, no power can stop it. That's what we have seen. Why Trump and Korean leader Un has reached Vietnam. So all these are the proof. Second, will the Korean unification will bring burden to South? I would say no. Look at Vietnam. You see after the unification of South and North, you have seen the prosperity they have gained. And for me, economic cooperation always clear the ground for the political cooperation. It's not that only, you look at the China. We have seen how the Chinese are developing their own market system. So the economic system will be changed. Political system will be, reformed. That's why what I want to say you that, if there is unification, as also Mr. Gupta was saying, and I have written in my note also, North is having enormous natural resources and, of course, the human resources, which is not being exploited or used. So why, if after the unification, look at South, it has developed the technical know-how. Vastly, it has developed that. The new generation of technology and the North. So if they come unitedly, if they come together, of course there will be, changes. I see that. There will be change in politics, there will be change in economic system. I would not support only the South Korean economic system or US economic system. There are models of economic system. We have also in Nepal, we have said this, that mixed economic system. So there are many models that we'll be discussing, but this is the high time to work towards the unification, as it's the long process to go. First of all, we have to cease the tension. and let these two leaders from North and South work on the unification without the interference of the external forces. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dr. Singh mentioned about family. Next speaker is from Malaysia, and I noticed there's actually many speakers here. Oh, sorry. I got switched, so we switched the order here a little bit. Okay. So the next speaker comes from Paraguay, actually, and really got to meet him just the other day. And he's a director of the Paraguay Thought Institute, which is really leading the development of Paraguay's economy in Latin America toward more freedom and prosperity that's not been seen before. The trajectory in Paraguay has been remarkable. In this index of economic freedom, every year it's climbing through the work of this institute and our speaker right now, the current president, director. I'd like you to welcome the director of the Paraguay Thought Institute, Dr. Ricardo Rodriguez Silvero.
Thank you. I have seen and heard in this convention that nobody is against the unification of Korea. So where is the problem now? With one exception, somebody says we got to be cautious because this unification could have some risks for the region. But we have a very good situation nowadays in comparison to times ago. For instance, the leading powers in the region are the United States, mainland China, Russia, Japan, and some other countries like Russia and other ones. And they are all together in saying we have no problem with unification with some conditions. It must be Korean-led, nuclear-free, toward a sustainable development with rule of law, with democratic values, and with individual freedom. And again, where is the problem now? The problem is that some countries are afraid of the unification because only South Korea is nowadays one of the most powerful economies in Northeast Asia. When they were together, the power would be X greater than nowadays. And even Japan, as one of the powerful countries in the world, could have some difficulties in the trade of some products and services. So, if the precaution is the regional impact of unified Korea, and there is that uncertainty in many countries because of this unification, perhaps we could thought on a comprehensive framework where every country, and in first place the leading powerful countries in the region, are together taking care of the peaceful unification of Korea and seeing and studying how could we all achieve that this powerful nation unified could be dangerous economically and financially from some neighbors. What about thinking of a sort of United Nations of Northeast with the presence, of course, of the United States, of Russia, and other countries that could be interested in controlling that unified Korea is developing in the right direction? In the case of my continent, Latin America, South Korea is already an economic and technological power. Everybody in Latin America think that unified Korea could be only vantageous, only positive for Latin America. And there are already some steps taken by South Korea. Last year, for instance, Mercosur, that is the common market in South America, and Korea and South Korea announced the launching of negotiations for a free trade agreement and a joint declaration of commitment to implement it. Meanwhile, South Korea specifies its landing in the region with other agreements in Central America and with its role as observer state of Pacific Alliance, another integration effort in Latin America. There is a lot work to do between Latin America and unified Korea, if that would be the case, unified. And there is a lot of space of activities, of trade, of investment, and of technological support everywhere, so that we, seeing from South America, we could only benefit of a united Korea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Silvero. And give him another hand. I think he came the furthest to this conference to bring us the Latin American perspective. Thank you. I'm going to check from now on. Okay, next is a very good friend here from Malaysia. And as Dr. Singh mentioned about family being an important component of economic development, I was so excited to meet him and his son yesterday, who also came with him from Malaysia. Give Omar a hand there in the front. And actually, I've met many delegates here who brought their children. I think that's pretty unique and pretty powerful and important. So, and everybody, next time when we see you, bring your children along, all right? And or bring your parents, some of you younger ones. So the next speaker is the Vice President for ASEAN for the Global Leadership Institute, which I'm really proud of him for that. And also he's the founder of Esports Malaysia. He's really invested in and sees the value and power in the next generation. Please welcome Dato Lat Omar. Dato Lat Shariman. Sorry, that's his son's name.
That's Lat Omar. I'm Lat Shariman. Thank you, John. I will, if I do my calculation correctly, we should have finished this session 20 minutes ago. So I've written something down. I timed it. It was 3 minutes. So thank you. I would like to share some parallels of this topic with the Korean Peninsula. To the region I'm from, I'm Malaysian, which is in the Southeast Asia. We belong to a nation club called the ASEAN, Association for Southeast Asian Nations, a 10-member state. At a time in its existence was had a share of each other. I mean, territorial, and historical, and cultural sameness or unity. Historic Malaysia alone shares territorial and cultural unity with Thailand in the north, as Peninsular Malaysia reaches out to the Malay Peninsula reaches out to Nakhon Si Thammarat, which is 500 kilometers from the existing borders. A state in Borneo Island, which is Sabah, is claimed by Philippines until today. Singapore was part of historical Johor in the south province of Malaya, and many others with Indonesia and with Brunei. Therefore, territorial claims are normal, but the economy has always been the factor which drives and sustains regional harmony. Like Korea, an important part of Malaysia is also a peninsula. However, South Korea has effectively been made an island ever since the 38th parallel in 1953. Logistical movements has been by sea only. Therefore, South Korean shipbuilders are now among the world's best and biggest in. Yet with land access, more markets will be reached and cheaply via trucks and trains. My quick points on these topics are this. Inter-Korea economic integration should precede political reunification. I think we all agreed about that. Current South Korean ruling government vigorously pursues economic integration with DPRK. Number 3, President Donald Trump and President Lim Jong-un summit on denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula in the next few days will pave the way for economic integration of North and South Korea, which we seek and pray for. Number 4, a further implication is that North Korea's average GDP growth is expected to increase as much as 3% as a result of trade and FDI integration with South Korea. GDP growth rate average at 4.7 for the next decade. Number 5, vast infrastructure development opportunities for China and Russia and South Korea upon economic integration of Korean Peninsula. The unification has to be natural for commercial link-ups to be real. Will what happened to Germany happen here? At the time of German reunification, European communism led by the USSR was at its weakest. With the other communist satellites in East Europe abandoning communism and rushing to be with the Western powers, East Germany was no different, and reunification was natural. Here, with PRC, with China emerging as world's #1 power, as Dr. Singh mentioned just now, and the Russian Federation filling up the role of that was abandoned by USSR, it is unlikely that the push factor will exist to make North Korea rush in the arms of the South. In fact, it is unlikely that PRC would like to share land border with its adversaries. A buffer seems desirable. Commercial growth following the Western model, which we all wish for, is not a real incentive for voluntary reunification. If the real intent to talk about it in a big way is to create a pull factor. As a parent example, PRC is a major player in the world trade without having to conform to Western standards of political existence. Why would North Korea be in a rush to do the opposite? Especially when economic and commercial collaboration can come through regional cooperation with North Korea as the participating member nation. I apologize if I am looked as a wet blanket in the direction proposition that economic well-being brought about by reunification will urge the North to submit. In fact, it would be that through actual economic collaboration that the North experience real benefits of future reunification. This may push them to join your sphere. While this is unlikely to happen, maybe for as long as forums like this appear to attempt to convince that one side enjoys relative wealth which it can share with the North provided reunification is achieved. The mindsets of the decision makers of the two sides are eons apart. Perhaps that's where the effort to show similarities benefits both people should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Lat. For the perspective from Malaysia, our final speaker is the final speaker because he occupies a unique space and was speaking earlier at the simultaneous session that happened along with ours on religious freedom. He's lived most of his life in Russia and China, and so his perspective is broad and global as well. He also has a fantastic family that I'm jealous of, so many grandchildren, and I'm really grateful that he could come and conclude our panel, and I hope you have your questions ready. But please welcome the founder and president of Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, Dr. Brian Grimm.
And John, since we saw each other last, I now have an 11th grandchild on the way.
Rub it in,
So-
rub it in. Congratulations.
Family is very important. Well, have you ever thought of how important religious freedom is to the economy? So only compare North and South Korea. South Korea has one of the best records in the world on religious freedom, very active religious populations, and a booming economy. North Korea has no religious freedom, nearly no religious expression, and it's a repressive, economically inward-looking state. So as you think about the possibilities for unification with North Korea, you have to keep the issue of freedom of religion or belief on the table, because it was critical to South Korea's rise, because South Korea is roughly split between Christians, Buddhists, and people that have no particular faith. So to have this kind of mix of a population work economically, you need to protect the religious freedom of all. Now, this message is one that is borne out by the data. And I'll just give two examples. A few years ago, researchers working with me, we studied the main drivers of economic growth over the long term. And we found, controlling for many different factors, religious freedom was one of three that consistently predicted growth over the long term. A second study that we did just 2.5 years ago looked at the economic contribution to religion in American society. We looked at three sectors: the local congregation, whether it's Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, Buddhists. So the local congregation. We then looked at religious institutions like hospitals and universities and charities. And then we looked at faith-inspired business. And we found that those three sectors in America contribute $1.2 trillion every year to the US economy. That would make religion in America the 15th largest national economy in the world. That means it's 50% larger than all the oil companies' revenues in the United States combined. So you can say there's a lot of spiritual fuel pumping up the US economy. So as you look at unification, as you consider this, it's very important to guard the ability for civil society and people of all faiths to participate and contribute to the economy. And the last comment I'll make is that religious freedom is not a threat to governments that are free. Religious freedom is a threat to governments that are repressive. So as unification hopefully goes forward, then that religious freedom is part of what will ensure that the future of a unified Korean peninsula is a future that's free and not one that slips backwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, and congratulations on that number 11. We're conclude the presentations now, and we begin our virtual round table, and also the people on the panel can ask questions of each other as well. Someone in the second session this morning mentioned that Korea, it's about time Korea stopped talking about the world powers, giving them, limiting them and hindering their development and unification. It's time to get over that and start looking forward. So, well, this really is a remarkable variety of world perspectives from every position, and people, even each one of them represents unique positions within, not just stuck in their own national perspective, but a global perspective. So I would like you to give this panel a big hand, and thank you for those great presentations. And then now you're welcome to ask a question or questions. We have a few minutes left. Yes. Some of them. Yeah. Oh, there's a microphone in the middle, but that's. Well, here it comes. Mike's coming to you. And
thank you very much, John, and the panel or round table. I thank you because you spared me the squeezing that was there. The 3 minutes were not many.
No, but
allow me to take 1 minute for intervention from the floor, and 2 minutes of Mukasa, who was supposed to present an African perspective. My name is Akamla Somogo. I'm coming from an intergovernmental organization called Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. We are 8 member states in the Horn of Africa. I just wanted to reflect on integration, and two things or 2 points that I picked from the round table. One from I think Wang, allow me if I'm not getting the names very right, about the need for gradual integration. And from Gupta, about the need to consider those who appear to be cross-border communities. And I say this because IGAD from the region is dealing with issues of integration. And integrations are not just matters of strategic concern, but also matters of emotions. There are a lot of emotions that go in there, and therefore the gradual approach is very important. IGAD has, of course, an integration agenda which is very broad, but then we realize actually the integration is not taking the quickest path that it was supposed to take. And so we came up with what we are calling minimum integration plan, basically to identify those quick win issues that then even the communities themselves can be able to see, relate with, and then appreciate that there's a need and there's benefit for us to integrate. I will highlight a few of them in passing. One is on free movements of people and livestock. The region is also in a lot of people are nomadic people. They are the livestock keepers, and so they move a lot. So the first thing that would relate with them is that they are allowed to move across the borders in search of water and pasture. The second thing is the interconnecting roads, key roads that would connect the different communities across the border, because most of these communities share the same ethnicity and they share a lot in common. The third thing is about cross-border informal trade policies, making what appears to be closer to the hearts of the local communities to start trading. And when they start seeing the benefit of the trade, then they, of course, they'll be our supporters towards reintegration. Two more points. The second last is cross-border disease control, because this was also something that was of major importance for us, both human and animal. And so we are coming up with policies. Actually, there are policies that allow for those cross-border related vaccinations, et cetera, And finally, on peace building, and we are, of course, creating what we are calling conflict prevention, management, and resolution platforms. These are cluster kind of arrangement which brings 2 or 3 countries together, and they have the common issues to discuss, and therefore it's easy actually to even start talking about integration agenda within those clusters. I just wanted to say those few remarks. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Kamlis. It's really interesting. He was invited to be part of the panel, and he said no because Dr. Mukesh was going to be there. He'll cover Africa. But Dr. Kamlis is from, he said EGAD, the East Africa Economic Region. And there's a lot that can inform, I think, the North-South Korea integration idea. But what's really interesting, there are so many issues they have to confront in East Africa and almost any other part of the world, even in Central America. President Cerezo is here from the Central America integration system, and that you have differences of cultures and many different issues in history that you have to go through and work out. But with North-South Korea, it's the same culture, the same people, the same family. They're all Kim or Pak or Lee, and just like here, and all related. So there's actually so much more. It's only ideology that keeps these two regions from, or two countries from unifying. So thank you for that perspective. Thank you for coming. And I really think you didn't join the panel so you could get more than 3 minutes, even though you didn't take it. But that was a good strategy. Give Dr. Kamlis a hand again and appreciate that perspective. Anybody else? Question? Any other question? Okay. Here it comes. There's a mic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Musdah Mulia from Indonesia. I'm really impressed with the last panelist that there is a problem with unified Korea, that you said that you mentioned about religious freedom. Talking about religious freedom, talking about a huge problems in our life, talking about human rights, especially for women's rights. So could you elaborate how to overcome this huge problem for Korea dream for unified Korea? Thank you.
Well, that's a big question. But I think that there's 2 different ways people work on this, really 3. One is from the legal side, working on rule of law. supporting rule of law in areas where religion is treated just like every other normal human institution. So that's one. The second is working from a principle base, such as the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18, which guarantees freedom of religion or belief for people to practice their religion in community or alone and change their religion. But the third is the focus that I have is making a pragmatic argument why religion is, the freedom to practice religion and express religion is good for society and good for the economy. And I think that that's a very strong argument to make in any country. And I won't speak much about China, but I'll just give one brief example. I was invited a couple months ago to be one of 5 keynote speakers at a large Belt and Road Initiative conference in Beijing. That's their global expansion initiative. And the other 4 speakers were all top government people, and I was the 5th, and I spoke about the role of religion in both China and in the global economy, and that this is an untapped resource. So in China today, they are worried about particularly Muslims in Western China, and up to 1 million have been put in re-education camps. And the argument I made, and I lived in this part of the world, and 2 of my kids were born in Xinjiang, Western China, and my argument there is that the huge Muslim halal Islamic market is one that China barely has contact with. And they could have so much more contact, and if they would take advantage of the Muslim population they have, which is the 17th largest Muslim population in the world, this would be great for their international business. So even making that argument to, in a situation like China where its religious freedom is under duress, I think is possible in ways that other arguments aren't.
Thank you, Brian. Another question? Okay, Ambassador Everard.
Thanks. A question for Dr. Kang, whose presentation I greatly enjoyed, all the great benefits that will flow from integration. I can't help pointing out, we saw exactly the same kind of charts, the big arrows flying across borders, all the talk about cheap labor and the freeing up of the blood system when we united Europe, when we united Germany. But when it came to it, what happened was that there were flows, but mostly of West German capital into the East, and East German companies simply collapsed. Then there were some flows of unskilled East Germans into the West. We're still dealing with the social problems following that. And to this day, despite all these flows, all these benefits, which it turned out were grossly overstated, people in West Germany are still paying a hefty supplement in their tax to pay for the unification with Germany. Why do you think Korea will be different?
예, 좋은 질문해 주셔서 감사드립니다. 사실 그 문제하고 관련해서 가정하고 있는 게 갑작스러운 통일을 이제 가정을 하고 있는 건데, 거기에 따라서 상당한 통일 비용이 그리고 사회적인 부담이 부여된다라는 것 때문에 여러 가지 논란도 있었던 것이 사실입니다. 그런데 이제 그의 가능성을 떠나서 지금 문재인 정부가, 그리고 지금 한국 정부가, 그리고 기존의 한국 정부의 통일 방안은 점진적인 협력을 통해서 양국가의 합의에 의한 평화로운 통일을 추구하고 있습니다. 그 이야기는 갑작스러운 통일로 생길 수 있는 여러 가지 부작용이라든지, 그리고 지나치게 큰 비용을 최소화할 수 있는 방안으로 경제협력을 통한, 그리고 다양한 방식의 교류협력을 확대해 나가면서 하나의 공동체를 만들고, 그리고 경제적인 소득을 줄이고 여러 가지 격차를 줄여나가는 그런 긴 과정을 거쳐서 통일에 도달하고자 하는 것이 지금 정부의 통일 정책이어서 만약에 지금 정부가 원하는 방식의 통일이 이루어진다면 방금 대사님께서 이야기하신 그런 큰 문제는 발생하지 않을 거라고 생각하고 그런 측면에서 정부는 남북 간의 평화적인 공존 그리고 경제 협력을 확대해 나가면서 장기적인 목표로 통일을 하자라고 지금 이야기를 하고 있는 것입니다.
Can I respond to his question? If I could throw in my 2 cents, Ambassador Everard, I think if you look at the U.S., there are parts of the U.S. that also have an inflow of federal government aid. That is, there are parts of the U.S. that subsidize other parts of the U.S., and that's been going on for probably 100 years. And other than some carping and bellyaching maybe in comment sections of newspapers and stuff, we pretty much have digested it and accept it. So there's no question if the infrastructure and maybe the education level, and I think especially for these command economies, if we're looking towards moving to a competitive economy, people have to learn how to compete or how to create value. And in fact, that's an important part of education in the U.S. And so I think if a unified Korea would be heading towards a competitive economy, there would have to be a lot of work teaching people from the North how to compete, because it is it's just not, it just doesn't come out of nowhere. There's a whole lot of learning and experience that goes on.
May I just come back up? Yes, I recognize there are differences in the US. To be honest, I don't think you can compare them with the huge difference in the economy between the South and the North. It's just a different kind of scale. But I really want to come back. I'm so excited by your reply, Professor Kang. So President Moon has a plan, and you think over so many years. Tell us more. We're intrigued. How many years? How long will this take? And what will the phases be before that? This is real exciting news.
Can I say something here? I'm from China, so Deng Xiaoping basically has a famous saying, crossing the river by touching the stone. So you don't have a plan set up at the beginning, say, let's do it, this is the agenda, 1, 2, 3 step. You just cross the river gradually by touching the stone. And China successfully transformed its economy. And you can say it's not totally successfully, but still it's becoming the second largest economy on earth, right?
Sure, but first you need the stones.
Well, there are plenty of stones. Germany could be the stone, China could be the stone. And when China opened its door, if you compare the mainland China's size and its economy to that of Hong Kong and Taiwan, it's uncomparable. But look at what happened now today. Even Shenzhen can surpass Hong Kong, and the whole Fujian province surpassed the Taiwan. So it's happening.
예, 재미있는 질문을 하셨는데요. 사실은 바로 그런 이유 때문에 현 정부가 남북 간의 평화적인 공존을 통해서 북한과의 경제협력을 확대해 나가겠다라고 이야기를 다시 하는 건데요. 평화적으로 공존을 하면서 북한의 경제 발전을 지원하는, 그래서 동시에 우리도 같이 발전하는 그런 과정이 자연스럽게 통일로 연결지도록 하겠다라는 게 정부의 통일 정책이라고 볼 수가 있습니다. 그래서 언제 어떻게 어떤 방식으로 통일을 하겠다라는 그런 구체적인 계획이 있다기보다는 자연스럽게 교류 협력을 하고 그리고 같이 성장해 나가는 과정에서 어느 시점에선가는 자연스럽게 서로가 통일할 수 있는 그런 상황으로 만들어가자라는 게 지금 정부가 추구하고 있는 통일 정책이라고 볼 수 있습니다.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kang. Thank you, Ambassador Everard. My wife is from Great Britain, so I feel now really like home, like I'm home. This panel is really the most diverse and fascinating, I think. And again, before we heard Korea has to get over the global powers pulling it apart and keeping it separated, and now really recognizing, I hope, Korea can see that the good intention and the willingness of the global community to support the reunification, to see this one family get back together again, finally, North-South Korea. We have time now for you to meet the panelists directly and get their cards and stay in touch. We want this conversation to continue until we can answer all of Ambassador Everard's questions next time we get together. So this is important, and this is moving forward. So let's give another final hand to the panel, and we'll please meet them, take a minute to get to know them. And we'll see you next time. We'll keep working on this in the meantime. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.